Welcome back. It's the question that we have all been asking ourselves, and now we're posing it to you. Do you have an inner monologue? Because apparently not everyone has a voice inside their head, and that has the internet in a frenzy.
13 Act News reporter Kelsey McFarland talked to the Las Vegas professor who has spent his career studying the subject.
If you ask, most people may tell you they think in words or that they talk to themselves. We've seen it portrayed in movies and TV, like the popular show You, currently on Netflix.
If it was actually a story of substance, I could forgive you for writing a screenplay instead of a book. But you're not writing anything groundbreaking.
A student named Ryan Langdon recently found out that not everyone has inner speech.
Blew my mind.
He posted a blog about it, which garnered more than 9 million views. It's prompted a big online conversation.
How do you know what you're thinking if there's no words?
Because I can see it.
UNLV psychology professor Russ Hurlburt has dedicated his career to what he calls the inner experience. He has dozens of publications and 6 books on the matter. The sudden spark in interest comes as a pleasant surprise.
Well, I'm delighted to see the interest because I think inner experience is important. The interest is fairly misguided from my point of view, in the sense that everybody is sure about what their own inner experience is like, and probably most of those people are mistaken about it.
Professor Hurlburt would argue that only about 25% of people actually have an inner monologue. We're just not great at articulating our own mental landscape. So how is that possible? Instead of having conversations inside my head,
Professor Hurlburt says I may instead just be visualizing the cup of coffee I have brewing, or noticing how hot that cup of coffee feels on my tongue, something he calls sensory awareness.
The key behind Professor Hurlburt's findings is this device. He's been using it since the 1970s. A participant with the device receives half a dozen random beeps throughout the day.
You'll jot down some notes about each one of those experiences that was going on at that beep, and then we'll get together and talk about it.
Over the course of a few weeks, a research team would have a good idea of how the participant thinks. But whether you have that little voice in your head or not, Hurlburt says if there's one thing to take away from the conversation, it's this.
I would like people to recognize that not everybody is like them, and that's an important deal. And I would like people to develop a taste for the truth as opposed to what they think might be the truth.
Kelsey McFarland, 13 Action News.
Okay, so Professor Hurlburt is the first to admit that his research is not the most popular in the psychology world. Other researchers will say that inner monologue actually happens often, and they factor that into their research. And some researchers say that inner monologues are private, can't study it, so they factor it out of their studies altogether.
This is so interesting. Before we even talked about this story on air, we were chatting about it behind the scenes. Ross, I know you had a couple questions earlier too.
Yeah, so I think we all thought that we had inner monologues, but his finding is that only about a quarter of us do. I guess I'm curious, if you don't have an inner monologue, is one considered worse than the other, or his point was really just that we're all different and we should just love that about ourselves?
Exactly.
I'm just a little worried about not having this inner monologue now.
Well, I think what we can take away, or what I'm going to say, is I just think I'm a genius because I talk to myself all the time and I have so many inner monologues that I'm just going to consider myself like Einstein.
There you go.
That's a positive way to look at it, I think.